My name is Ursula Myrie. I run an organisation in Sheffield called ADIRA. ADIRA is a Hebrew word. It means strong, dignified and powerful, because that is what one of the things that I'm trying to do with ADIRA is to empower black people with mental health issues. And I wanted us to sit as black people and talk about the cycle of abuse in the black community. Why has it still been perpetrated, and why do we not talk about the real root causes? Okay ladies, so
hey guys, thanks very much for coming this afternoon.
Today we're going to be talking about mental health and me, breaking the cycle of abuse, specifically within the BAME black community.
We've got three topics that we're going to unpick, because it's quite a wide subject, so we focus on three that we think we can do justice to.
And our first topic is going to be the emotional well-being of black families, and how does that contribute to the cycle of abuse.
I feel the current state of the black community and the black family is of repressed emotion. In the black family, I think the singular biggest issue is communication and the repressing of emotions, as that is seen often as weak or unneeded.
I think mental health in the black community, it's known that it's very taboo and it's not talked about. It's not even a real thing. It's just, you're either crazy or you're just lazy.
Maybe we joke about it too quick, because a lot of the time when you get together with other black people, the main joke is like, oh, who got licks when they was younger, and oh, we can't chat back to our parents, and talking about mental health and that, people are like, what do you mean mental health? I can't tell my parent I'm depressed and that. But we joke, but beneath that is quite deep. So you might have really experienced something, you can't now go to your mom and dad, talk to them about it. Do you know what I'm saying? So we need more situations, or like more things like this where we can get together and express it. Otherwise it's gonna get bottled up, it's gonna come out as something mad. Do you get me? And then create a whole nother issue.
That I guess the abuse, gets transformed from the first person, or the first time it's manifested, that the next person doesn't necessarily carry on abuse in the same way, but the effect is carries on. So that might, the effect might be that the person who was abused is less communicative with their own family as a result of the abuse they had.
I know, speaking to my mom, she went through her own difficulties of mental health, but I feel that, unbeknownst to my mom, and no disrespect to my mom, but I feel that she's projected all the stuff that she has experienced, her own fears, she's projected those onto me, and that's what I felt that I was carrying. And I only learned that whilst I was doing my training. And it was only when my mum told me about her mother, my grandmother, and what she'd experienced coming from Panama and moving to Jamaica, and the things that she experienced growing up in Jamaica, I realised that there's been 3 generations of as the women in the family that have gone through their own mental health experience, and I made a conscious decision. I thought, it stops here.
1985 we came to this country, and it's a lot more harder. It's brand new. There wasn't a lot of mental health issues that was addressed, so it's a lot harder. There was hardly any translation. We didn't know what we could fit in. We didn't know the culture. It was a lot culture shock, but we adapted. We were very young, so we adapted. And although my dad lived back home, my mum operated as a single mom, and back then we weren't allowed to talk about our emotions and everything like that. We were just too busy surviving.
How are gender roles viewed, and what effect does that have on the cycle of abuse?
That's a broad question, because the black community is not just one big black community. There's the African community, and also the Somali community is actually quite separate to the African community, and then the Caribbean society is also quite different from, So each society has different issues with gender roles. Each society has different perceptions of it. I think personally, I feel like the black woman is ridiculously strong, and we know this in the black community. We know the strength of the black woman. That is one thing that we talk about a lot. And when we stop the idea of black men cheat, black men is, we also know about the greatness of the black man. And when we take away from all the negatives that have been that has been pushed onto us. I feel like us as the black community actually appreciate each other as black men and as black women.
Male, especially black male in the West, are portrayed in most of the time in a negative way. And we talk a lot about gender imbalance within the black family, when I always disagree when talking about it, because you see, it's not what I've seen growing up from my own family, and it's not what I'm doing currently with my children.
My perception of how gender roles affect relationships is probably born out of my understanding within my own home. Mine was a happy home. I was always taught to respect women. My mum always respected my dad, and we had a good relationship with siblings, but that's not the same for everyone. And I've realised that over the years, some of those gender roles and the relationships have changed ever such a lot.
You see, I was very lucky. My father, he told us that we were lioness, we were strong, we were beautiful. Like, my name is Sophia, so he used to call me Sophia Lorraine all the times, which I found out she was a very famous woman. But for him to actually take the time and call me that, I felt that next male that will become a husband better step up the same shoes as my father. So I had an example in my head.
Amongst other things, gender becomes another factor of I'm not allowed to be myself. Then your identity is kind of like is in question, because now you're thinking I have to be a man in every situation.
Yeah.
But then your manhood here in England might have been questioned so many times. Let's say the police, because I spoke to a few guys I know that have been stopped in search, and the way they're stopped in search, like, emasculates them, and they feel powerless. So then it comes out elsewhere, and let's say you have no power at home, etc. Maybe there's your home, you can't be yourself, or it's abusive or whatever. You then go to school, and then you're the man there, so you do too much there.
Yeah.
Now you're just hyper masculinity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You overdo it in them situations, then you get bullies and you get criminals and all of that. I don't hear that spoken about a lot. Just that kind of ability to just be in a room and just be yourself, but you always got to be on something, because now I got to show you that I'm the guy. So you're never relaxed in it. And I think girls is sometimes the same in it, and then there's pressure. If I walk past another like black boy, we can either be friends or deadly enemies in that 10 seconds. Get me? We'll look at each other, and it can either be like we nod or we scowl. And if you scowl, that can really escalate. It could very much, someone turn around, they had a bad day, all of that, something just happened to them, now they're feeling very angry, they turn around and say what? No one in that situation is backing down now. And someone might have something on them, and easily as that, you've got another death in the black community. You feel what I'm saying? Over nothing, but the ego is so fragile, do you know what I'm saying? That now I'm a man, I have to do it. You get me? That's why people, you know, if someone brings out a knife and you run, people see you as weak. I'm running, I'm gone. You get me? Like, are you mad? Because I'm strong, but I'm dead. But we'd rather, it's mad that we'd rather do that. But that's been passed down. That's toxic. That, do you know what I'm saying? Say, no, you got to be a man in all situations, innit? But then the idea of what being a man is or being a woman is, we haven't even covered that. So now you're just guessing, innit?
The stereotypes, particularly at the moment, is that black men are seen as quite aggressive, and also similarly to black women, the stereotype is that they can be quite aggressive. And I think it's a bit of a difficult one, because I think aggression isn't necessarily always seen as it is. I think a lot of people mistake it for being assertive.
For me, I think there's a stereotype of the black woman being strong, and I know I played that role. As I got into my 20s and 30s, I had kind of this belief of thinking I've got to be strong. You know, I can carry pain because that's what I'm supposed to do. As a black woman, I've also been targeted and kind of said, "But you're not an angry black woman, are you?" I was like, "What does that mean?" So I've kind of been put in this box of being, because I'm a black woman, I've also got to be an angry black woman. And then I kind of step back and think, right, I've got an issue with, I need to go and talk to somebody, I've got to make sure that I tone it down. So I've had to kind of change who I am in order to not become this angry black woman. I've got to speak, and I better not say the wrong thing, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm going to get angry, and I'm allowed to get angry. I'm also allowed to be quite passionate, but then I don't want to be labelled as the angry black woman that's come to have a conversation and this is how she's turned out.
masculinity is a positive thing. Positive thing. It's really, and every good thing can be used in a bad way.
Because there is an idea of toxic masculinity, of course trying to be this strong black man is also an issue, because then you think you can't talk about your emotions, you can't talk about your feelings, you can't show weakness, and that is an issue, because what is weakness? That is the problem with the black community. We have this whole thing about being weak. So to us, the idea of being weak is talking about our feelings, is crying, a man shedding a tear. No, that's not a thing. You understand? Or if it is, then he's seen as very weak or he's not respected. So that's the issue. So with gender roles with men, they feel like they can't open up because they have to be this, they have to be that, they have to be tough. And it's actually the same with women. So if a black woman feels hurt, I don't care anyway. They show this attitude of, no, it doesn't affect me. I'm good, I'm strong, I can move on with this. But inside, she's hurting. Inside she wants to be vulnerable, but even black women don't allow themselves to be vulnerable. Black women don't allow themselves to cry, but that's not weakness. Talking about the issues going on in your life is not weakness. Being sad and being emotional is not weakness, it's being human. And so that is the issue in the black community, because we are such strong peoples and we are always having to be strong to overcome so many things. Because of that, it's gone the opposite way, that we can't be open about our true feelings and emotions. And I feel like the issue is both for the black and the black man and the black woman.
What roles do institutions play in what we see in terms of the cycle of abuse?
Institution, just like any other, it takes a village to bring up a child, and it takes a village to destroy a child. Same with the institution. Institution combined with its limited resources, and they sort of diagnosed wrongly, or they don't reach out or help out or understand black families. These institutions can kill a person. They can destroy a whole generation of culture or youths or families, or separate them.
I think they almost can't be blamed for a certain level of negligence, because it's hard to ask someone that's not from the community that you're focusing on to now go and diagnose the community with something or help the community or understand that community. I can't go into the Romanian community and go help them with their problems, because I'm not gonna get it fully. And now my approach might be seen as some sort of discrimination or something, because they're thinking, what are you trying to do? Because it feels like that, especially when someone's coming from outside, and particularly if you're in a press group, there's a lot of paranoia, skepticism, all these things when it comes to, let's say now I'm gonna go hospital and try to get counselling there, and all my counsellors are white. I'm not maybe gonna want to express myself in the same way, because I'm thinking, I don't know what your intentions are, just from history and that, like, it's just one of them. That even if it's subconscious, it might not fully let offload, innit?
A lot of institutions will either appoint a black person to work with a black family without giving that person the support that they need, because they're operating within a system, and the system itself isn't changing, but they'll appoint somebody and say, well, you can deal with that issue, but that individual is now still working within an establishment that doesn't really reflect, what's happening. So I think there should be much more support for individuals within institutions, because I think it's difficult for somebody who's not from that community to fully understand. And there are efforts. I know there are efforts to try and understand, but again, those individuals that are within those institutions need far more support if they're going to be successful.
I don't get a sense that some institutions are actually making their services available for the black community. They make it, how can I put this? It's like a blanket service, and there's an expectation that whatever your culture is, that you have to fit in with what's been said. I could be wrong in saying that, but that's my sense. I know for me, when I recognised now that I was struggling with my mental health when I was I was about 18, I never considered going to, I went to the GP. That's only because it was a family GP, and I've known that GP since I was a baby. And I felt that I could talk to her, but I would never ever have gone to get any kind of therapy or counselling, because I know that I probably would have been labelled as having mental health difficulties, and I didn't want that label.
Do I believe that black family understand the institution very well? No, they don't. Do I believe that the institution understand black family well? No, they don't. Then you see, but what I'm looking at is there need to be clear communication between black family and the institution so that the needs of both are met.
Winding down then, what do we need? What do we as black people, as individuals, but also as a black community need in terms of support in order to begin the work to try and break the cycle of abuse that seems to be perpetuating generation after generation? What do we need?
The generational and the cycle of abuse is about doing things differently. And I think we have a responsibility as adults to take stock and get some support to try and stop that cycle so that it doesn't continue.
We need more males to come out and say, like for example, Stormzy, when he said, I suffered from depression. Well, that was a good turnout. It turned out everywhere because it was like him confessing that I had a mental health issue and I am addressing it and I am normal, I can fall, and to get the right help. I run a youth group and sometimes we do exercises around mental health, and I make sure that the boys understand what mental health is about. It isn't ashamed, and who would you go to?
The only reason I survived my school was because of one Jamaican man who taught me. Every school needs 2, 3 of those. Yes. Every school needs a representation for their students. Yeah. Every school needs that.
A lot of black people just kind of want to look strong just for the community. It's just so people can't say, oh, look at that person, she needs help, or like stuff like that. Yeah, we just need to be brave enough to accept help and like seek other means of like getting to where we want to be, not just like relying on ourselves.
I don't think we sit down and talk enough. I think there's a lot of you fall into a role when you're around black people sometimes, like where you're just, I'm playing this role now, and as a group we're all just doing what we do, but there's not a lot of depth to it sometimes, especially with my generation anyway, I can say, until we sit down and really talk. I think people need to know that it's not you can't really generalize. Obviously, most discussion, if you're going to discuss this topic, it's going to be general. We're going to talk about each culture and each gender generally, but any type of stereotype connected with it, I reckon just like delve a bit deeper sometimes and then see the bigger picture. But obviously, the problems that do come in the black household and with black families, that we have to unpack it.
We still got a long way to go, I think, and there's still people who I think maybe need some support or encouragement to talk about mental health as a whole, because I think it's still quite difficult for a lot of people to talk about, especially with a lot of taboos and stuff like that.
Education, conversation, try not to avoid having conversations about some things, and so we tend to avoid things that are difficult. I think it's really important, and I think that what's even more important is to have difficult conversations, because there will always be different opinions, different views, and if men only have a conversation, they never really get to understand fully what's going on for women, and the same with women, and the same with white people, and the same with black people and other races. And I think it'd be important sometimes to try and find the space to be able to get some of that together. That might not actually provide a full answer, but it certainly opens an opportunity to try and understand something in a bit more depth.
We can have those conversations in our house now. There's nothing that is off bounds that cannot be talked about in my household. I'll talk about anything and everything because I want them to understand that they are individuals. They have their own views. We'll choose topics around mental health, we'll choose topics about LGBT, we'll have those conversations. I want my children to be able to come to me, whatever's happening in their life or however they're feeling, that they can actually come to me and talk to me.
Understanding black family has to come from within that community, black people, because you see, I know best what happened into the black community compared to someone who is studying the black community. Then a reality check from us as well is quite important. Then communication within the black family is extremely important if we want to improve, you see. outcome within our own communities.